Good morning, church. It is great to see you all. I'm really excited about next week, Friends and Family Day. I hope you are too. Really looking forward to that and excited to see each and every one of you and everyone that you bring. If you will, would you please bow with me? Father in heaven, thank you so much for another great day, and thank you so much for another great time of worship that we've had so far. Father, thank you for your word, and thank you for the Psalms and the rich blessings that come from them. Father, we ask you to please be with us this morning. As always, we will ask this, help us to hide behind the cross anytime we open up your word. We love you. It's in Jesus Christ's name we pray to you. Amen. So growing up, there was a particular character, and he'll come up here in a moment. There was a particular character that I liked. A particular character, is it going on? Here, let me see. There we go, there he is. I was waiting for the impact. Yeah, waiting for the kids. The Hulk, right? And this particular character was just fun because, and I still find him fun, because, I mean, in general, it's just, he's the end-all of strength, right? When the Avengers first came out, the movie, it was really exciting because there had been some team-up superhero movies, but nothing quite like that. It was really, really cool. And it didn't feel simple, though now the first one may feel simple with the 50 movies or whatever that this franchise has come out with. But a simple quote that I just loved, and I still do love, is in this movie. It's the second movie you've seen this guy show up. One of the main villain is trying to intimidate, and he says, "I have an army." And then pretty much the main superhero of the group of that movie says, "We have a Hulk." Right? And that's his response. Is just kind of like, again, he's the end all of strength. Now, I think they have watered that statement down. If you have watched any of the other movies, you might know. And even if you haven't, just because of how big this universe has become, let's just face it, he's not the end all of strength now. It's just kind of that statement, "Well, we have a Hulk," kind of watered down. In fact, a lot of times this guy has just become a test of strength for other heroes, right? Or other villains. And so, like, when you make a statement like that, "We have a Hulk," at certain points, that means something. But then when it's combated by a lot of other things, when it's brought down by a lot of other things, it might not mean something. It's kind of watered down. It's kind of broke down to not insignificance, but semi. And we can do this with a lot of different statements, a lot of different quotes, a lot of different moments. One particular that we can easily do is we can look at a passage like Psalm 46. God is our refuge and strength, a very present help in trouble. We look at this opening statement that this is one of the Psalms written by the sons of Korah. As they write this down, they describe God as our refuge. He is a place that we can go to and live and thrive, right? But he's also our strength. My strength does not come from myself. My strength comes from God. A very present help in trouble. When I am in trouble, I can rely on him as my help. Later on, though, as we'll be studying from the New American Standard, it's going to take a slightly different word. It means the same thing. Ultimately, we're going to see this, God is my fortress. That's what this verse means. God is my fortress. That's the title of this lesson today. It's going to kind of, even though we're not doing a part one, part two, it's going to complement the lesson for next week. But can I water that down? Have I watered that down? Because maybe you are currently in a moment of excitement and just complete trust, or maybe you remember a moment of excitement or just complete trust that no matter what you have gone through, it's just a piece to say, but God is my fortress. Or maybe it's not those exact words, but but I've got God, right? It doesn't matter how difficult life is right now, I've got God. Maybe you're currently in that, or maybe you were in that. But I'm going to warn you about watering that down. Because I can have this attitude while worshiping. I can have this attitude while studying, while singing. But when my times of trouble hit, if I do not lean on the statement, God is my fortress, God is my refuge and strength, if I do not go, well, but God, right? What am I doing? I'm suddenly allowing a combat in my mind of what is stronger. My troubles, my issues, or God? Now, is God the end all of strength? Of course. Is God the end all of protection? Of course. But do I believe it? Here's the thing. As we study through this psalm, the sons of Korah are going to put an emphasis on this. God is my fortress. And with that, they break this thought down into three parts, each part ending in the word Selah, which is either could be, because it's a songbook, could be either a crescendo or calling the people who are singing it to pause and think on what was just said, but it's a clear three-part breakdown. And the first part of this, that God is my fortress. So number one, we will not fear. That's the focus here. Since God is my fortress, we will not fear. Looking at verses 2 and 3, it says, therefore we will not fear, though the earth should change. Maybe your translation says, give way. Hold on to that. Give way or change. And though the mountains slip into the heart of the sea, though its waters roar and foam, though the mountains quake and its swelling pride. Selah. So stop. Think about it for a second. They bring up this idea that I should not fear though these things. And I think we should take this, we will not fear, and what follows, and study it in three ways. You know, there's three ways that we can see this text, and all three of them kind of open up a portion. You can do this with a lot of different psalms, and we could do this for maybe even the whole psalm, and we're kind of going to do that in certain areas, but right now we're just going to look at verses 2 and 3 for now, then we'll move on. But we can look at verses 2 and 3 in the realistic, the poetic, and the historic. If we look at verses 2 and 3 in a realistic setting, first let's read it again. There are four those. Therefore we will not fear, though, number one, the earth should change or give way. And though the mountains slip into the heart of the sea, though its waters roar and foam, though the mountains quake at its swelling pride. What if we're looking at realistically here, what are we talking about? We're talking about earthquakes, landslides, ocean storms, and floods. That's what we're talking about here. And it's interesting that they bring these out because Did you know that there are more deadly natural disasters if you're caught in it, like a volcanic eruption? That's more deadly if you are caught in it. But if we are looking at the four most deadly natural disasters, just widespread, this is it, because they happen a lot. And unfortunately, a lot of people pass due to these. In fact, living in tornado country, even the most deadly tornado recorded doesn't hold a candle to many instances of these four. So they're bringing up four examples of the most deadly natural disasters, and they say we don't have to fear. They're bringing up four examples of, yeah, if you're caught up in it in the wrong place, you're going to die. You're just going to do that. But we don't even have to fear about it. We don't even have to worry. Because God is our refuge. God is our strength. But we'll put a pin in that and we'll move forward. Because then we can look at the poetic. Did you notice that they are going to put a focus on mountains and oceans? You know, a mountain, poetically speaking, is a focus of strength and resilience, and there's nothing that can break it down. And an ocean, on the other side, is also a symbol of strength, but it is not a symbol of resilience or being sturdy, right? It's a symbol of uncertain strength. It's a symbol of destructive strength. You stand on the side of a beach, you will literally, even if it's not being destructive, as the water goes over and comes back, you are now on new ground. And the ground that you were standing on just 3 seconds ago is the only ground that anyone has ever stood on, and there will never be anyone who stands on the exact same ground as you are. The ocean is destructive and uncertain, while the mountains, they're certainty. What symbol of strength and resilience, and you might even put certainty, was taken away from you and thrown into uncertainty? You see, you may not fear those deadly natural disasters, but you probably fear what was or can be taken away from you. That is your strength. I don't know what exactly it is. It might be a family member or multiple family members. It might be your job. It might be your financial situation. It might be your church family. And the list could keep going on. But what was the symbol of strength and resilience that was taken away from you and thrown into uncertainty? Even found in that, you don't have to fear. Why? Well, what's interesting is a lot of the Psalms also kind of subtly or strongly, but sometimes like this, subtly, reach back to the historic. Because what does it sound like to you? I mean, it's reminiscent of the flood, right? The flood where, you know what, the devastation was terrible. It was awful. For those who did not have God as their fortress. But the 8 that did, though everything changed for them, it was good. And speaking of the fact that the sons of Korah wrote this, what do they start off with? They start off with what might be a symbol of an earthquake, but also it says the earth gave way. We don't have to fear. Here's the deal. The sons of Korah, their ancestors, were swallowed up when the earth gave way. That was their punishment. And the other Israelites who saw it ran away in fear so that they wouldn't get swallowed up. But here's the thing. You didn't have to worry if God was your fortress, if God was your refuge, if God was your strength. It was God's punishment that caused the fall of Korah. Guys, what are we looking at here? And why are we spending so much time on the first 3 verses when we've got several more to go, and I promise you we're not going to spend this much time on every single verse. Why? Because, guys, this is the building block of what's to come. Do I really not fear when God is because God is my fortress? Do I really not fear? I don't have to. I don't have to, because he is my strength. And it goes even further. They are then going to focus on the side of this, that the next grouping is going to be, so she will not be moved. And this is going to be a description of God's people. God's people will not be moved. So there is a focus of God's people will not be moved. There's going to be another focus that jumps back up to verses 1 through 3, but the focus is, guys, you're not going to be moved. Verses 4 through 7 says this: there is a river whose streams make glad the city of God, the holy dwelling places of the Most High. God is in the midst of her. She will not be moved. God will help her when morning dawns. There is a river whose streams make glad the city of God. And though this is not necessarily talking about a literal river that might be going through Jerusalem, right? What is a river? It's far different than an ocean. And I know in Texas we have seen even some destruction from a river, but throw that aside, because that's not the symbolic focus that's being talked about here, is it? Really, when you think about a river, what do you think of? A running, flowing water of life, of peace, tranquility. God is in the midst of his people, of his city. God is there. If God is there with us, it says she will not be moved. We're not going to be moved. If God is with us and we actually believe that, why am I so tied up in my difficulties and my times of trouble? We're not going to be moved. They continue on to say, the nations make an uproar, the kingdoms tottered or shook. The Psalms writers are not going to sugarcoat the fact that bad things happen. I mean, as we've literally just read that in the first few verses, bad things happen. And people can make bad things happen. But it doesn't compare to this fact. He raised his voice, the earth melted. You see the contrast there? Sure, the kingdoms made an uproar, and the nations made an uproar, and the kingdoms tottered. I mean, they shook. Yes, I see that, but that's not in comparison to, he raised his voice. He uttered his voice. The earth melted. Many nations have to build up an uproar of many mighty people for kingdoms to shake. God, he just has to utter his voice for the earth to melt. Why am I worrying and feeling like I am going to fall? Why are Christians worrying and feeling like we're going to fall when he is with us? The Lord of hosts. Anytime you see the Lord of hosts or the Lord of Sabaoth, sometimes in the Greek, in the New Testament, you'll see that. Not Sabbath, but Sabaoth. Anytime you see those, understand, we're talking about the Lord of armies. And not just the Lord of human, puny armies. We're talking about the Lord of myriads of angelic armies. And one angel could do us all in, all right? Just one. And he's not against us, right? That's not what it says. He is with us. He may be against our enemies, but he is with us. The God of Jacob is our stronghold. Sometimes we see the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, the God of Jacob. And I love when the God of Jacob is brought about. Because when we see the God of Abraham, we think of a man with great faith who did so much. And yes, he had maybe his struggles here and there, but he just lived a life waiting. But then the story of Jacob and his family is just mixed with what feels like chaos. And sometimes Jacob is doing right, sometimes he's doing wrong, sometimes his family is doing right, sometimes they're doing wrong. And it's just kind of a mixed up mess. The God of Jacob is our stronghold. You may not be exactly who you should be. You may not exactly be able to reminisce yourself to Abraham. But even though you struggle, even though you worry, the God of Jacob, he is your stronghold. He is your refuge and he is your strength. Why do you worry about moving? So then we get a challenge with the third section. After they say Selah for us to think, we get a challenge for the third section because it says, so I will be exalted. This is not you and me. If you've read ahead, or if you were listening to our scripture reading, which was so beautifully read, you know that this is not you and me being exalted. We are challenged to live our life to allow God to be exalted in our life. Because it starts off this section with, come, behold the works of the Lord. So think about the works of the Lord. Behold them, who has wrought desolations in the earth. He makes wars to cease to the end of the earth. He breaks the bow and cuts the spear in two. He burns the chariots with fire. Look at what God has done on earth. Look at the desolations and the works that he has done to end wars. You think your troubles are bad? Imagine being in the ancient days, being an Israelite, and actually, even though we focus on it in the Bible, so it may feel like a big kingdom, it's a pretty small kingdom, and you're a small group of people against some pretty mighty nations who want you dead or want you as your slave. You think your problems are bad? They might not compare. They could, and I'm not saying they don't. But think about that when reading this, because he calls us to remember. And I just want to quickly remember 4. We won't even read them necessarily, but I want to remember 4. The Red Sea. You remember what happened there? The slaves of Egypt, the Israelites, they don't lift a finger, right? I mean, Moses lifts up a staff, but that's about it. And then they walk through the Red Sea, and God closes the Red Sea over the Egyptians and kills them. Jericho? Sure, the Israelite nation ended up fighting, but they couldn't have done any fighting at all had God not toppled down those mighty walls. Gideon's 300. Gideon, who's supposed to battle the Midianites, starts off with 32,000 soldiers. God dwindles it down to 300. And then he feels like, okay, maybe I've got to fight with these 300, and I'm kind of freaking out, but that isn't actually what happens, is it? Those 300 men in the middle of the night just make enough of a battle cry noise and are kind of somewhat seen to scare the Midianites to fight amongst themselves and die. And then the Jehoshaphat's singers. Jehoshaphat, king of Judah, is off to battle, and they're going to battle 3 nations. And he sends off singers singing the praises of God ahead of them. And once they get to the battlefields, what happens? They find out that those 3 nations have killed each other. What's God trying to show us? He's saying, I will be exalted. In fact, what we see in the last verses, cease striving and know that I am God. I will be exalted among the nations. I will be exalted in the earth. Be still and know is a great translation. And I'm not even saying cease striving is a better translation. Just sometimes it makes, when we just kind of know it kind of makes us kind of jump back and rethink it. Cease striving. A lot of times we just kind of feel like the be still and know, because we read it or we sing it in that one song that we go, okay, just kind of for a moment be calm. That's not what he's saying here. He just brought up, hey, God fought your battles. So here's the challenge. Can you let him? Can you stop working for a minute and let him fight your battles? Can you not just give this isn't asking you to just give a second to pray and think and then keep going. That's not what this is saying. It's saying stop working, cease striving. What was one of the many reasons the Sabbath was commanded? That the Jews were supposed to stop working every seventh day. What was one of the reasons? Guys, it was to remind them, if you stop working one day every week, God's still going to make the world go around without you. You're going to go to sleep on Friday night with your troubles. You're going to wake up Saturday knowing that your troubles are there, but you can't do anything about it. And then you're going to wake up Sunday and nothing has really changed unless you let God change it for you. The challenge is, will you look at what God has done to armies without having his people work? And can you say, the Lord of hosts is with us? He quotes again, verse 7, the Lord of hosts is with us. The God of Jacob is our stronghold. Can I, Selah, stop and think? And can I cease striving and know that God is our refuge and strength, a very present help in trouble? Can I give it actually to God? Giving it to God in prayer is good unless it's just words. Actually handing over whatever you might be going through is what God needs you to do. And that's not just saying, okay, just be done with it and walk away from it forever. No. But can you actually give God the faith, hand it over, allow him to work, and know that when I say, God is my fortress, it means something, that it's not watered down. When I'm going through situations, does it actually comfort my soul to know that this is my God and he's with me and he's got it? Though I may die, though I may lose what I love and feel as my strength, though chaos may ensue around me, my God will never let me be shaken, and I will allow my life to not exalt me, but exalt his power and his glory, because he is my refuge and strength. Do you need help letting go this morning? Then come forward and seek help. We all need to learn to be okay with letting go. Cease striving. So if you need help with that, please come forward, seek help, find myself, one of the elders, one of the wise women of the congregation, anyone that you can trust to seek this help. And if you want to be added to the Lord's church this morning through the waters of baptism, then please don't hesitate. Come forward as together we stand and sing.